Just a reminder that this stream is to support the fantastic work that the South London charity Kingston Race Equalities Council do, and now it's finally time for us to bring in the CEO of KREC. It's John Azah. Hi John, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, hi, good evening everybody.
Hello, hope you're having a lovely evening. So talk to us about what is it that you do and what your charity stands for.
Well, Kingston Race and Equalities Council has been around for quite a long time, really, around since 1976, and is fundamentally there to help people who suffer hate crime and abuse and people who suffer discrimination in employment. We also work to set up a number of community organizations where there are gaps. And when I started my job here about 32 years ago in Kingston, there were very, very few BAME organizations. So over the last 30 or so years, we've set up quite a number. Older people's multicultural center, where a lot of older people within the BAME communities go to a day center to have meals. In those days, there were no refugees in Kingston. We were led to believe, and we set up Refugee Action Kingston, help refugees and asylum seekers. And the most recent organization that I set up was Kingston Chinese Association, which we set up about 15 years ago. Historically, people said there were no Chinese people in Kingston, and yet I saw them all over the place, and we had a thriving organization going out for 15 years. So we do a variety of things, and we also go into schools and community organizations to talk to people about discrimination, about racism and equalities, really, and that's what we do on a daily basis.
Throughout your time, promoting diversity and this great message, I think I saw on your website that, race equality, equality in itself is a human right. What are some of the changes you've seen, I guess, specifically in London? How have things improved over the years? And also, what is there left that we still have to do to make sure that, equality does become something that is a human right?
I think it's been really, really a roller coaster where, as I said, about 30 years ago, you walked into organizations and you walked into clubs, and people were surprised to see that, for instance, my organization, there was a black person who was leading the organization. Right now, it's not so strange to have somebody like me being a CEO of a voluntary organization such as CREC. And over the years, again, the Stephen Lawrence inquiry was published, and the report was published about 22 years ago. The police didn't want to do much about that when Stephen was murdered 27 years ago. Now the police service is very, very active in trying to change its profile and recruit more BAME representatives, and the demography of London has gradually changed from a very small minority of people to about almost 40% of BAME representatives in London. So the diversity of London has changed. When I came to Kingston, the population of BAME communities was only 7.2% in the 90s. Nowadays, it's 32% of the population. And so even though stereotypically people see Kingston as majority white, 30-something% of the communities in Kingston are from BAME communities. And so London is gradually changed to be very multicultural and multiracial. And obviously people are more embracing of that diversity than they were 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's great to see that, like you said, it's not just a change in what people look like and how diverse everything is, but seeing people of color in power and seeing people, like you said, nowadays it's no longer like a novelty to see someone from a BAME background to be CEOs or, or to be owning companies or sort of reaching the top of the career ladder. Before I move on to King Jay's question, I'm sure he's got something to ask you. How can we help you? How can people watching now support your charity?
Well, in a variety of ways, really. I mean, I think, a lot of people assume that because there's so much negativity, then maybe Black people are the problem. Actually, we are not. We are contributing towards the fabric of this country. But we need resources to be able to do the things that we do. And therefore, we need people to engage with our organization. People need to enroll, to get interested in some of the things that we're doing, because we are the people who work with communities to engage with statutory and voluntary organizations to do that. We also need people to take on board the fact that in 2020, people are still struggling to embrace their rights. A lot of people are ignorant about what they are entitled to. So today, for instance, I was congratulating an 82-year-old South African white woman who has lived in this country for a long time and is now trying to be a British citizen. It's taken her about a year and a half to do that. And there are a lot of people, if you look at the Windrush, who did not even want to, were not encouraged to settle, not because they didn't want to, but because they were denied the information that they needed to settle. So we as an organization act as a conduit between communities and statutory organizations, and we want people to support us with resourcing as well as to get engaged in our communities so that we can help those communities to work with anybody that they want to work with so that we can enjoy the harmony that people crave.
Yeah, I think that's super, super inspiring, and I'll definitely get everyone in stream to go and support you. King Jay, any last words or a question for John?
I've got two quick questions. So the first one is, how do I get my goats, man? I'm a fan of your goatees. It's really, really good. I can't grow it as long as yours.
I can't either, so yeah, I'd like to know as well.
What's the secret?
There's a price to pay. I mean, if as you get close to the age that I've gotten to, things get gray, and it's not a lot of people. I get into trouble at home for growing my beard and not shaving my mustache, but so there's pluses and minuses. And thank you very much for liking it, because I get in trouble at home with the family and the children to say, well, shave it, trim it and all that. But I say to people, it's the only identity that I have, which I have control over. The rest of it, I'm told to do what I'm asked to do. So I keep my beard and my mustache for myself. But I'm grateful for your admiration of it.
Nah, it looks good. I wanted to ask you a question. So obviously this year we had Black Lives Matter, which was pretty much trending on social. Was you yourself, did you go through any type of racism around like 2020 so far? Because I know you said that you've kind of, you've lived a pretty much a good amount of time. And have you realized anything like happening this year alone? Because, when Black Lives Matter happened, you kind of seen the height of racism rise quite a bit. Have you seen anything this year or with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a black man, it never leaves you. I mean, it's there. And even though I have to say I've been privileged to attain the status that I've attained in Kingston, and that I've got some respect to go with my job. On a daily basis, you get people, and your last guest talked about micro racism, where you walk into a room and you get a vibe, you get a feel that people suddenly talk differently. They stop talking because somebody different, a person of color, has come into the room. But also the things that we are doing, we're not concentrating on the negatives. What we're doing is combating and using positivity to try and change people's minds. So as a result of Black Lives Matter, what we've done as an REC and in the borough is the borough took a motion to full council, which was supported, and as a result of that, we've been having Black Lives Matter events. In fact, just last Thursday, the 10th of September, we had our first event, which was titled Let's Talk About Race Equality, which was on YouTube, and the link is still on YouTube. And we had a huge following from people to try and address why the Black Lives Matter. People were asking questions about why aren't we saying everybody's lives matter. We are saying Black Lives Matter because we are the ones who are being murdered. We are the ones who have people's police officers' knees on our necks. And therefore, we are not saying that everybody's life doesn't matter. We are saying at the moment, we are the ones in the firing line, and therefore we need to deal with these. And so, I mean, I think it's relative to everybody's life. I faced racism all my life. I got here by working really hard. You send application forms and you have to send 50 application forms and got no response. Until gradually I got lucky, and I got lucky and got to where I am. But you basis and you cannot run away from it. But we are trying to be positive and asking people to call it out and shut it down really when they face it.
Yeah, it's exactly what I've tried to say to people as well, is that it's when people say Black Lives Matter, it's not about, that no one else's lives matter. It's just that right now we're going through a lot of stuff, and it's like, Black Lives Matter. Once we get to this part here, we go up, then all lives matter. So that's how it should be. So yeah, thank you very much for your answer. I really appreciate it, man.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you, John. I wish we could have you